afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the radio audience. The World Series is on the air. This is Ted Husing speaking from Navin Field, Detroit, where the Detroit Tigers and St. Louis Cardinals are battling for the World Championship. The play-by-play descriptions of all the World Series games are brought to you at the compliments of the Ford Motor Company, Mr. Henry Ford, Mr. Edsel Ford, and your local Ford dealer, producers and distributors of Ford and Lincoln cars and Ford trucks. The sponsors will be amply repaid if you get enjoyment from these broadcasts. In order that you might hear the play-by-play description of this game in its entirety, the Paris Medicine Company has kindly omitted its regular afternoon broadcast. On behalf of the Ford Motor Company and the Columbia Network, we wish it's a pleasure to be sitting here at the ballpark watching everything that goes on before the game. And for that matter, contemplating everything the pleasure doubles. All last night as the three trains rolled over the rail neighborhood, while ball players turned in early and press men either filed stories or swapped songs and sayings, the fact that this is a musical World Series seemed to come more strongly to my mind. On the one side, to the rhythm of the clicking wheels and rails, you could hear that Cardinal train grinding out that great old classic, Stop That Tiger, Shake That Tiger, and it seemed to grow louder and louder. On the other side, you could hear that wailing moan of the downhearted fans giving an undercurrent of that great old classic of the 49th State of the Union, Got the Blues, Got the Blues, Got the St. Louis Blues. And that made for counter melody and tempo. That this is a series based on musical terminology goes further in the fact that the Tiger fans who rose at dawn to meet the homecoming American Leaguers at the station greeted those ball hustlers with a note of appreciation that whipped through the stiff morning air in a grand crescendo. And that's how this morning, as we wended that quite weary way to Navin Field, the sun shining and the weather zippy enough to make your steps light and airy, we sang a song of satisfaction over the World Series of 1934. It's been full of all kinds of baseball and no end of good fun. Unfortunately, the Fall Classic may end today. The Tigers lead out with 3 victories to 2 for the Cards. And the pitcher for the Tigers today will be none other than Master Schoolboy Rowe himself. His is the awesome figure of a colossus of road who stands between the Cardinals and a chance at another game tomorrow. But you never can tell. Baseball is and always will be a game entirely dependent upon the support given a pitcher by the men who line up behind him. Now, on the other side of the fence will be Paul Daffy Dean, the younger member of the Brothers Dean family, which hurled the Cards to a surprise pennant in the National League this year. And who between them are the possessors of 2 victories and 1 defeat in this present autumnal classic that has now reached the 6th game. Paul trimmed the Tigers in the 3rd game of the series in very workmanlike fashion, and may be able to do so again today if the Cards get what are known as the breaks, such as was served up to them in that now distinctly and distantly removed 1st game of the series, which was played here October the 3rd, when the entire Tiger infield bobbled this and that to give the Cards an 8-3 victory behind big teams. Verging upon their greatest achievement in Major League Baseball, that in being 1 game from the first World Championship ever owned by a Tiger Town baseball man, these self-famed Bengals are on the threshold of immortality today. With the great Schoolboy flinging his glance and his shoot at the almost demoralized forces of the Redbirds, the local citizenry are hysterically acclaiming Mickey Cotton and all the lads as our next world champion, thus giving the Redbirds no quarter. But Frankie the Fordham Flash Fritz has his own ideas of that, too. No believer in odds which are overwhelmingly against him, the playing manager of the visiting team boldly declares that powerhouse hitting will blast the giant Schoolboy off the hilltop and pave way for the triumphant rush of the Redbirds to the 2 victories needed to give him and his red-breasted birds that coveted championship flag. The interest is not only with the spectator and the reader, as much as it is with those distantly removed from the park. Intent upon every word, excited thousands of sporting telegrams and letters regarding the series to date. The magic of the names of Wallace Peary, Jimmy Dunn, and other Sweeneys, or bandsmen such as Bernie Cummins and Johnny Hamp, or even instant news hawks like Jimmy Coughlin, have had an electrifying effect in bringing the world close upon us as we sit in these press boxes and send out the progress of the ball game. Everywhere at every place, the games have attracted listening posts, and the appreciation of the fan, large or small, has been a source of gratification to Pat Flanagan and Frank Ross, who are cooperating in bringing the ball game to you play-by-play. There's a pack of information behind the scorecards, and there's observations enough to pass around to everyone. For that purpose, we shall give you Pat Flanagan, whose insights and sidelights will refresh your memory and bring you up to date on the 1934 World Series. And there you are, Pat.
Okay, Ted. How about you, ladies and gentlemen? During the regular season, a fan always yells, "What's his batting average?"
when a ball player is mentioned. The ball player asks, how does he hit in the clinches? They want to know if he hits with men on bases or is what they call a lonely hitter. Now, looking at the series so far, we find St. Louis as a team is outhitting Detroit 46 hits to 43 and has a team batting average of 251 compared to the Tigers' 235. St. Louis shows 5 hitters, 4 of them regulars, hitting well over 300. Detroit has 4, 3 of them regulars, hitting above the 300 mark. So what then is the difference that shows Detroit ahead 3-2 on games? Pitching for one thing, errors for another, and hitting when the men are on bases for the third. Now, on the second, we find that the Cardinal pitchers have walked twice as many men as have the Tiger swingers, 22 to 11 to be exact. The Tiger pitchers as a whole have used a better change of pace. The fireball is all right at times, but the curve and the slow ball are just as effective. Today's game has 2 possibilities: a draw for the Cards or a world championship for the Tigers. And your guess is just as good as mine. Now, the pitchers for today show Paul Dean, the boy from Holdenville, Oklahoma. The youngster who bats and throws right-handed, who won his game in the series, and who spends his winters in Houston, Texas. His greatest claim to fame in this year of 1934 was the fact that he pitched a no-hit game. During the season, he campaigned mostly against the Giants and found them very easy, and turned up with 19 defeats and 11 defeats as a first-year man. Linwood's Schoolboy Rowe's greatest claim to fame this year is the fact that he won 16 straight, but the Philadelphia Athletics spoiled that 17 points. However, he turned up with 24 victories and 8 defeats, and he showed beautiful pitching in the game that he won just a few days ago. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes my part of this program here at the present time, so I'm going to turn the microphone over to Frank Locke, who will tell you what is going on in this ball game, play-by-play. You'll see the lineup for the averages and so on. All right, Frank.
Thank you, Pat. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And we're all set to go here in just a few moments now in the 6th game of this World Series, which at the present time reached 3 victories for the Detroit Tigers and 2 for the Cardinals. And here's the probable starting lineup for this afternoon. If you have your scorecards and pencil ready, we'll call them and give you a chance to jot them down. For Detroit, White, center field. Cochran, catcher. Gehringer, second base. Goslin, left field. Rogel, short. Greenberg, first base. Owen, third. Fox, right, and Rowe, fifth. For the Cardinals, Martin, third base. Rothrock, right field. Frisch, second base. Ledwig, left field. Holland, first base. The steering is going up. They just call off the lineup and announce Rowe as the pitcher. Got a big hand from the Detroit Lancers. Collins will be at first base for the Cardinals. The Lancers set. And either Orcotti or Fullerton center. We'll get that in just a moment. DeRoche short and Paul Dean will be on the firing line. The Lancers will do the catching. Just call that off. Orcotti center, DeRoche short, and Paul Dean pitch. The umpires will be Clem working at the plate, Geisel at first, Risden at second, and Owen at third. Paul Dean also got a nice cheer from the fans, nice hand, because his name was called off as the starting pitcher for St. Louis this afternoon. This is the first time that 2 winning pitchers are meeting in the series. Rose is the national anthem. There goes the Detroit Tigers going out on the field now. The umpires have just finished their conference, and the men are taking their respective positions on the playing diamond. The park is again jammed this afternoon, and outside of the park there's thousands that were unable to get in. You just had to fight your way through the crowd to get into Navin Field this afternoon. The Detroit Tigers are tossing the ball around in the infield now, taking their preliminary warm-up there. Rowe has not come out to the plate as yet. Apple Martin, there is Rowe now strolling out to the mound. We made the reference coming out to the plate. We met to the mound, and listen to the hand that Rowe is getting as he strolls out to the rubber. Mickey Cochran will again be back at the plate working with Rowe. And for the Cardinals, it will be Paul Dean and Delaney. Those several of the Cardinal pitchers and catchers going down to the bullpen. Apple Martin will be the first man. Alvin, Walker, Mooney, and Davis going down to the bullpen for the Cardinals. And Healy. Apple Martin is the first man up for St. Louis in the first half of the first inning. Upper is standing just to the right of the plate, looking those pitches over while he's warming up there with Mickey Cochran. Umpire Clem also standing just to the right of the plate. Martin, Rothrock, and Frisch will be the first three men. There goes Cochran throw down to Gehringer at second base. Martin has a very nice average in the series there. He's hit .381 so far in the 5 games. Right-handed hitter. They're all set to go. Martin is stepping in the batter's box. The right-handed hitter. Rowe is on the mound getting a signal from Mickey Cochran. And this sixth game is just about to get underway. Rowe gets the signal, starts his wind up to the pitch. There's the first one to Martin, foul. Back up into the press spot. Back of the plate, and the count is 1 strike on top of Martin. And umpire Clem tosses out the new ball to Rowe. Rowe is standing back off the mound, rubbing his gloves off. He's coming back in on the rubber. Getting a signal again from Cochran. 1 strike is the count. Starts to wind up to the next pitch. Here it is. Wide and low, ball 1. Makes the count reach 1-1. 1-1 on top of Martin. And for St. Louis, the first half of the first inning. Goes on the mound again, starts the old wind up for the next pitch. Here it comes, and it's a foul ball going down the right field line up on top of the stand. And the count is 2 strikes and 1 ball on Martin. Now the new ball tossed out to Rowe. Martin steps back out of the batter's box. Gonzalez is coaching at third. For St. Louis, Ware is at first. Rowe's coming back in on the mound. Gets the signal from the Cochran. The count is 2 strikes and 1 ball. Starts his wind up for the pitch. Here it is, and a fly ball going down back of the pitcher's mound. Owen is after it, and he makes the catch about halfway between the pitcher's mound and second base for the first out. Barker pops out to Owen. 1 away, and that brings up Rothrock. The Cardinal right fielder switch hitter batting left-handed against Rowe. Rothrock is hitting .143 in the series. Frisch on deck. Rowe starts his wind up for the initial pitch to Rothrock, and he punts one down the third base line. Owen is after, but the ball rolls foul. Ball rolls foul before it got to third, and it's 1 strike on Rothrock. 1 strike is the count. A new ball is tossed out to Rowe, and waiting on Rothrock to get back to the plate. This is the first half of the first inning. 1 down, nobody on. 1 strike is the count. He's on the mound again. Set for the next pitch. Here it comes. And it's a drive down the right field line. It's there. Just inside of the line. Here comes Rothrock racing for second base. There's a throw, and he's safe at second with a double. Rothrock double down the right field line. That brings up manager Frankie Frisch. Cardinal manager and second baseman, another switch hitter, batting left-handed against Rowe. And his average in the series is .227. Rowe's on the mound. He got the signal from Cochran. All set. Here's the pitch. Backhorn call on Frisch. Medwick on deck. This is the first half of the first inning. One strike is the count on Frankie Frisch. Goes on the mound again. Gets the signal. Here's the next one. And it's a ground ball. It's a line drive down to Owen. He does a nice catch. The line drive from Frankie Frisch is back to Owen at third base. He He didn't have any chance to double Rock there. Gallagher couldn't get over to the bag fast enough. The play was made too quick. 2 down. Bruce lined out to Owen at third. That brings up Joe Medley, the Cardinal left fielder, right-handed hitter. Hitting .381 in the series. Goes on the mound, he gets set. Here's the first pitch. And it's a drive out to right field for a hit. Here comes Rock coming in. Here's the throw. And he's in with a run. And Medley goes down to second on the throw to plate. To the plate. Medley singles to right. Rock scoring. And on Fox's throw to the plate, Medley moves down to second. Run in. 2 down. Medley on second base. And Rip Collins is up. Cardinal first baseman, a switch hitter, batting left-handed against Rowe. First half of the first inning. 1 run in. Rowe takes his position on the mound. Getting set for the first pitch to Collins. Here it comes. And it's a fly ball going out to deep right. Watts is going back. He comes it. And he makes the catch right in front of the bleachers out there for the third out. Returning the side. Collins out on a fly out to Fox and right. The result, the first half of the first inning show no runs, or rather 1 run, beg your pardon, 2 hits, and no errors. And the score now reads 1 for St. Louis. Going into the last half of the first with Detroit getting their first chance. Now time for station identification. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
This is the WBBM Air Theater, Wrigley Building, Chicago.
Back at Maven Field, going into the last half of the first inning. And JoJo White, the Tigers center fielder, will be the first man up. Cochran on deck, and Gallagher will be the third hitter. Paul Dean is on the mound taking his preliminary throws. Rich waiting down at second base for the throw. There it is, and we're all set to go. White is up, first man, left-handed hitter, hitting .176 in the series. Paul Dean is taking his position on the mound, getting a signal from Delancey. The last half of the first inning, Dean starts his wind-up. Here's the pitch. Strike 1 called. 1 strike is the count on White. Martin came charging in fast. Thought White was going to attempt to lay one down. 1 strike is the count on White. Dean's winding up. Here's the next one. Ball 1 inside. 1-1. 1 ball and 1 strike. The last half of the first inning. On the mound again, getting a signal from Delancey. Starts the old wind up for the next pitch. Here it comes. Ball 2 outside and high. 2 balls and 1 strike on White. Mickey Cochran on deck. This is the last half of the first. And the score is 1-0 so far in favor of the St. Louis Cardinals. Paul Dean on the mound again. Getting a signal from Delancey. Starts the old wind up for the next pitch. Down to 2 balls and 1 strike. And it's a foul into the stands. Down the left field line. And the count is even up now. 2-2. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Umpire Clem hands Delancey a new ball. What he thought is out to ball D. 2-2 is the count on White. First man up for the Tigers. The last half of the first inning. Starts the old wind up again. Here's the next one. And he went down swinging. White struck out for the first out. 1 away. And that brings up Mickey Cochran. Mickey Cochran is up. The Detroit manager and catcher. Left-handed hitter. And getting a big hand from the fans as he steps up to the plate. Cochran is hitting in the series, 150. 1 down, nobody on. Paul Dean's on the mound. Gets the old signal for the initial pitch to Cochran. Here it is. Wide, ball 1. Ball is the count on Cochran. Dean starts the old wind-up for the next pitch. Strike 1 called. The count is even up, 1-1. 1 ball and 1 strike. Starts his wind-up for the pitch. Here it is. And it's a ground ball going towards right field. Rich makes a beautiful dive. Diving stop, but not any chance to get Cochran at first base. Had a beautiful diving stop on that ball, but not a chance to get Cochran at first. It's a hit for Cochran. He's on first base, and that brings up Charlie Gehringer. Charlie Gehringer is up. The Detroit second baseman. Left-handed hitter. One man down. Cochran on first base. Gehringer batting. Gehringer's hitting .381 so far in the series. Paul Dean's on the mound. Gets up for the first pitch. Here it is. Outside, ball one. One ball is the count on Gehringer. Paul Dean on the mound again. Yep. And here's the next one. A ground ball going down to Frisch. And he's out at first. Frisch to Collins. Cochran advancing to second. Cochran is on second base. One away, or rather two away. And that brings up Goose Garland, the Tiger left fielder, a left-handed hitter. Garland is hitting .286 in the series. Two down. Mickey Cochran down on second base. Garland batting, a left-handed hitter. Rogel on deck. This is the last half of the first inning. Scores 1-0 St. Louis so far. Paul Dean on the mound. Here's the pitch, and he swung at it. Strike one on Garland. One strike on Goose Garland. With two down. Cochran down on second base. We're in the last half of the first inning. Paul Dean on the mound again, getting a signal from Delancey. Standing there in the rubber, getting set for the delivery. Cochran coming off the second a little bit. Here's the next one. And it took the pitch down to Martin. Martin knocks the ball down. And he is out at first. Martin knocked the ball down, recovered. Made a beautiful throw across there at first to Collins. And Gosling was out. Martin to Collins for the third out, returning the side. The result, the last half of the first inning, no runs, one hit, and no error. On the score reads 1-0 St. Louis as we go into the first half of the second inning. These World Series broadcasts are brought to you through the courtesy of the makers of the Ford V8. Going into the first half of the second inning, and Delancey, the Cardinal catcher, will be the first man up. A left-handed hitter. He'll be followed by Orsatti and then DeRocher. Delancey is hitting exactly 200 so far in the series. First half of the second inning coming up. They hit for two for the Cardinals and 1 for Detroit so far in the game. Rowe is on the mound, warming up with Hayworth until Mickey Cochran gets out. Delancey is strolling out to the plate, carrying 2 War clubs. In the last half of the first there, White, the first man for the Tigers, struck out, and Cochran singled. Gehringer was thrown out by Frisch. Cochran moving down to second, and then Garland was thrown out at third. Martin to Collins. We're all set to go in the first half of the second inning. Delancey batting, a left-handed hitter. Rowe is taking his position on the mound. Going around in the dirt out there to get the pitch just right. Delancey steps back out of the batter's box for the moment. This is the first half of the second inning coming up. St. Louis leading 1-0. Delancey is in the batter's box. Rowe is on the mound. He gets a signal from Cochran. He's winding up. And here's the first pitch. And it's the drive going out to left. Looks like it's Dawson going back like it's straight. No, he goes right up against the screen. Makes a beautiful catch. It looked like it was going into the stand for a home run. Dawson went right back against the screen and made a very nice catch. One away, and Orsatti is up. Ernie Orsatti is up. Cardinal center fielder hitting .333 so far in the series. That's left-handed. One down. Both starts is wind up. Here's the first pitch to Orsatti, a foul to the left of the plate into the stands. One strike. The new ball is tossed in. One strike is the count on Orsatti. Goes on the mound again. He starts the old wind-up for the next pitch. Here it is. And it's a ground ball down to Owen. Owen comes up with it. And he's out at first. Owen to Greenberg for the second out. Two down, and that brings up DeRocher, the Cardinal shortstop. DeRocher's average for the series, 111. Right-handed hitter, he's followed by Paul Dean. This is the first half of the second inning, and the score is 1-0 St. Louis at the present time. Rowe takes his position on the mound, getting a signal from Cochran. Winding up. And the ground ball going down to third base. Owen comes in, he makes a nice scoop up. And he threw the ball into the dirt at first base, and Greenberg makes a nice scoop up. Two nice plays on one ball there. As we tie the side, DeRocher out. Owen to Greenberg. 43rd out, retiring the side. And the result in the first half of the second inning show: no runs, no hits, and no errors. Quite a contrast there in the fielding in that inning from what happened out here in the first game, and also in the fourth game in St. Louis. Goslin making a nice catch there on the first ball on Delancey, and then Owen coming up with a beautiful stop there on DeRocher's slow roll. He's on the mound warming up with Delancey. We're going into the last half of the second inning. St. Louis leading by a score of 1-0. Rogel, the Tiger shortstop, will be the first man up. Greenberg on deck, and Owen will be the third hitter. The infielder tossing the ball around. Rogel standing to right of the plate. There goes Delancey's throw down to second, and we're all set to go. The last half of the second inning coming up. Rogel is the only switch hitter in the Tiger lineup, batting left-handed against Paul Dean. Paul Dean is on the mound, getting a signal from Delancey. We're all set to go. Starts the old wind-up for the initial pitch. Here it comes, and it's strike one call. Fast one right through the center. One strike is the count on Rogel. Paul Dean winding up for the next one. Ball inside and low. The count is 1-1. 1 ball and 1 strike on Rogel. This is the last half of the second inning. Gets the old signal again. And here's the next pitch. Ball 2, it was outside. 2 balls and 1 strike. 2 balls and 1 strike is the count on Rogel. Paul Dean on the mound. Starts the old wind-up. Strike. Call. The count is 2-2. 2 balls and 2 strikes. 2 balls and 2 strikes. This is the first hitter for the Tigers in the last half of the second. Paul Dean starts his wind-up. Here's the pitch. Ball 3 outside. 3-2. This is the one. Got to be in there this time. This is the one that tells the story. The count is 3-2. On the mound, getting his signal. Winding up to the pitch. And he went down swinging. Rogel was struck out for the initial out. Rogel struck out. That brings up Hank Greenberg. The Tiger first baseman, a right-handed hitter. And Greenberg in the series is hitting .350. That's right-handed. Owen on deck. Paul Dean starts the old wind up to the pitch. Ball 1 inside. 1 ball is the count on Greenberg. Paul Dean on the mound again. Starts the old wind up to the next one. Here's the pitch and another high one. Ball 2 and no strikes on Greenberg. 2 balls and no strikes with 1 man down, nobody on. This is the last half of the second inning. St. Louis leading at the present time by a score of 1-0, getting 1 run in the first inning. Paul Dean starts his wind-up. Here's the pitch. Strike. He swung at it, and the count is 2 balls and 1 strike on Greenberg. 2 balls and 1 strike is the count on Hank Greenberg. Getting a signal again for the next one. 2 balls and 1 strike. Here it comes, and he took another cut, and the count is even up 2-2. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Dean's winding up. Here's the pitch. And he went down swinging. Greenberg struck out for the second out. 2 down. And that brings up Marvin Owen, the Tiger third baseman, a right-handed hitter. Owen in the series is hitting .95. Season average .316. He made a beautiful stop out there in the first half of the second. That pick up on DeRocher's ball. It's the first pitch to Owen, a foul into the stands, the upper tier, back of the plate, 4-1 strike. There's 2 down, nobody on. This is the last half of the second. A new ball is tossed out to Paul Dean. It's on the mound. Starts the old wind up for the pitch. Here it is. And it's a ground ball. Going down to third. Martin takes it. And he's out at third. Martin to Collins. 43rd out, retiring the side. The result, the last half of the second inning show, no runs, no hits, and no errors. And the score going into the first half of the third, the St. Louis 1, Detroit nothing.
The Ford Motor Company is sending you the broadcast of the World Series games.
First half of the third inning coming up, and the first man up for St. Louis will be Paul Dean. He'll be followed by Pepper Martin and then Rock. Dean hasn't had any hits in the series so far. Rowe is on the mound, taking his preliminary throws with Mickey Cochran, while the Detroit infield is tossing the ball around. Here comes Paul Dean now, strolling out to the mound. Getting a nice hand from the fans. The right-handed batter. Rowe is taking his position on the mound. Paul Dean steps into the batter's box. We're all set to go. This is the first half of the third inning. Score 1-0 St. Louis. Goes on the rubber, getting a signal from Mickey Cochran. Starts the old wind-up for the initial pitch. Here it comes. And it's a hot grounder down the first base line. Greenberg comes up with it, runs over, touching the bag, making the put out unassisted. Paul Dean is out to Greenberg at first, unassisted. One away. That brings up Pepper Martin. Cardinal third baseman, a right-handed hitter. Martin on his other appearance in the first inning, popped out 2-0 and made the catch back to the pitcher's mound. The right-handed hitter, Rock on deck. The umpires are calling time for a moment. The fans get the overcoats off of the rail and scatter some people out from back of the screen way down the right field line. One down, nobody on, and Pepper Martin up. Umpire Geisel is walking about halfway out there. And there's a bunch of boys sitting up on top of the fence out there. They're making them all move out of there. Evidently, it's bothering the hitters when they're up to the plate, facing that direction. So, in the meantime, is still tossing a few back and forth with Mickey Cochran. Just about got him cleared out there. The buildings across the street from the park are doing a very good business this afternoon. They're absolutely jammed. Every window and the roof and up on top of signs and everything else. Still waiting to get the youngsters off of the fence down the right field line. Umpire Geisel is coming back into first base. Pepper Martin stepping into the batter's box. There's one down. Nobody on. Now it's the first half of the third. Rowe's on the mound. He got the signal. He's winding up. And here's the first pitch. Strike one called on Martin. Rock on deck. One strike is the count on Martin. Rowe's winding up again. Here's the next one. Ball inside and high. 1-1. 1 ball and 1 strike on Pepper Martin. First half of the third inning, St. Louis leading 1-0. All two. Outside and low, he was tempted, though. He came very near swinging. The count is 2 balls and 1 strike. 2 balls and 1 strike on Pepper Martin. And here's the next one. And it's a hot grounder down to Geringer. Geringer comes up with it, and he's out at first. Geringer to Greenberg, 42nd out. 2 down. 2 down, and that brings up Rock. Rock is up. Cardinal right fielder. This is their second appearance to the plate. He got a double down the right field line in the first inning, and then scored a little later on Medwick's single to right center. Rowe starts his wind-up for the first pitch to Rock. Inside, ball 1. First half of the third inning. Goes back on the mound again, starting his wind-up for the next pitch. Here it comes. Oh! Back of the plate. And the count is 1-1 on Rock. 1 ball and 1 strike with 2 down, nobody on. 2 balls tossed out to Rowe. He's standing back to the mound, rubbing his gloves off. Puts on his gloves down, steps back up on the mound. Gets his signal from Cochran. He's winding up to the pitch. Here it is. And a ground ball going back over his head, down back a second. Geringer is after it. And he is over at first. Gehring has juggled the ball after getting it back a second, but I think you'll get credit for a hit. It's a hit. It's an infield hit for Rock. He's on first base with 2 down, and Frisch is up. It was a hard ball for Gehring to field going over back of second base. He knocked the ball down, but not a chance to get the runner. Frisch batting, left-handed. Rock on first, Rowe's on the mound getting set. Here's the pitch, and it's a ground ball down to Gehringer, and he makes a nice stop, and he's out at first. Gehringer to Greenberg. He went back on the grass, making a beautiful stop on that one, and tossed Frisch out at first base for the out. The result, the first half of the third inning show no runs, 1 hit, and no errors. And the score reads 1-0 in favor of St. Louis, going into the last half of the third inning, and this is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
This is the WBBM Theater, Wrigley Building, Chicago.
Back at Navin Field in Detroit, going into the last half of the third inning, and Pete Fox, the Tiger right fielder, will be the first man up for right-handed hitter. Followed by Schoolboy Rowe and then JoJo White. Score is 1-0 St. Louis. There's a throw down to second base. We're all set to go. Umpire Clem is dusting off the plate. Fox batting a right-handed hitter, hitting exactly 238 so far in the series. Aldine winding up. Here's the first one, a foul. Back of the plate up against the screen, and the count is 1 strike on Fox. 2 balls tossed out to Aldine. He's back on the mound again to get his signal from Delancey. 1 strike. Starts the old wind up to the pitch. Here it is. And at the pop fly, going down back of the pitcher's mound. DeRocher is after it, and he makes the catch for the out. Fox popped out to DeRocher, who made the catch back of the pitcher's mound. 1 away, and that brings up Schoolboy Rowe. Rowe is getting a big hand as he strolls out to the plate. Rowe hit .314 during the season. He hasn't had any hits for the series so far. That's right-handed. Followed by JoJo White. Aldine's winding up, and here's the first pitch to Rowe. Strike 1, he swung at it. 1 strike is the count on Rowe. Aldine winding up for the next one. Ball, it was low, 1-1. 1 ball and 1 strike. Here's the next one, and it's outside and high. Ball 2 and strike 1. In the other game that Rowe pitched, struck out 4 out of 4. 2 balls and 1 strike on Rowe. 1 man down. Dean is winding up for the next one. And it's a foul ball. Going down the first baseline. Collins is going after it, but it's into the stands. And the count is even up now. 2 strikes and 2 balls. 2 strikes and 2 balls. A new one is tossed in. Going around the Cardinal infield. And Martin is just now tossing the ball into Paul Lee. 2 balls and 2 strikes on Rowe. 1 man down. Nobody on. This is the last half of the third. Aldine starts the old wind-up for the pitch. And he goes down swinging. Rowe strikes out for the second out. 2 down. And that brings up JoJo White, the Tiger center fielder, a left-handed hitter. That's 4 strikeouts for Dean. White is up, left-handed hitter with 2 down, nobody on. This is the last half of the third inning. Score is St. Louis 1, Detroit nothing at the present time. Aldine's on the mound getting a signal from Delancey. Winding up for the first pitch to White. Here it comes. Oh, outside and low. 1 ball is the count on JoJo White. Starts the old wind-up again for the next pitch. Here it is. Ball 2, outside. 2 balls and no strikes on White. 2 balls and no strikes with 2 down, nobody on. Back on the mound, gets the signal from Delancey. White's the left-handed hitter. Struck out on his other attempt to plate the first inning. And here's the next pitch. Ball 3, wide. 3-0 on JoJo White. 3 balls and no strikes. 3-0 is the count. Winding up to the pitch. Ball 4 outside, and JoJo White walks on 4 straight pitches. And that brings up Mickey Cochran. That's the first base on balls to be issued in the game. Goes to JoJo White, and incidentally, JoJo White has probably had more walks than anyone else in the series. Makes the 7th base on balls that White has drawn during the series. Mickey Cochran batting. Got a single in the first inning. Left-handed hitter. Aldine on the mound getting set. There goes the throw to first base, but White is back to the bag. White is on first base, 2 down, and Cochran batting. Geringer on deck. Aldine's on the mound. Here's the pitch, and there he goes down to second, and he's called out, and then straight went to jack the ball, and then White ran over to third while the ball was rolling around on the ground. White is over third. It's an error on the play. Call for the moment. Riggs will get an error on the play on dropping that ball. However, White came in there pretty fast and kind of a hard one to handle. 1 strike is the count on Cochran. Tyler's call is a little conference out at the mound. White is on third base. The count is 1 strike on Cochran, 2 down. Aldine's on the mound, waiting on Delancey to hoist 6 in his shin guard, and Collins comes in. He also gets credit for stolen base on that play, but the error comes in where it allowed White to advance from second to third. 1 strike on Cochran. Aldine is on the mound, getting a signal from Delancey. Starts his wind up to the pitch. There it is, and it's a ground ball. Going down to first base, Mike Collins fields the ball, and toss to Aldine at first, and he's called safe at first. White scoring. White scores. Cochran is on first base. Cochran was hurt on the play. Hurt his knee on the play, down on the back. All of the players are running out there as well as the trainer. Score is tied up now, 1-1. White's run that he just scored here a moment ago was about the same as he did in the one previous game there. In the 4th game, when he got on, stole the base, he came all the way around to third, and then came in on a wild pitch. However, he got around that far this time and scored on Cochran's ground ball down to Collins there that went as an infield hit. Aldine went over to cover the bag, but he beats the throw by a fraction. White scored. Cochran is on first base. Cochran was hurt on the play. Hurt his knee on the play, down on the back. All of the players are running out there as well as the trainer. Score is tied up now, 1-1. White's run that he just scored here a moment ago was about the same as he did in the one previous game there. In the 4th game, when he got on, stole the base, he came all the way around to third, and then came in on a wild pitch. However, he got around that far this time and scored on Cochran's ground ball down to Collins there that went as an infield hit. Aldine went over to cover the bag, but he beats the throw by a fraction. And it went as a hit for Cochran, makes 2 hits for Cochran, and White scored the tying run. They're running out to the first base kid out first baseline now. The trainer is out there to work on Cochran. All of the players off of both teams are gathered out around the first baseline. Hayworth is warming up down in front of the Detroit dugout. In case Cochran doesn't stay on the game, why Hayworth will go in to do the catch. On one play is resumed. Charlie Gehringer will be the hitter for the Tigers, with Mickey Cochran on first base, of course, providing that he stays in the game, is able to stay in. They're still working on him down around the first base line. All the players are gathered out there. Both teams, all with the exception of the outfielders. Delancey is coming back to the plate. Paul Dean coming back out to the mound, evidently to take a few preliminary throws and keep warmed up a little. Buzzy Wares, the Cardinal coach, came out to say a few words to Paul Dean on the mound. Cochran is coming up on his feet, and they're walking him around now, whether he's going to try to stay in or not. Getting a big hand from the fans as he gets up and walks around. Baker and Perkins, the two coaches, are walking him around out there. Evidently, he's going to try and stay in. And Gehringer will be the hitter. One play is resumed. Charlie Gehringer, the Tigers' second baseman, a left-handed hitter. Mickey Cochran evidently is going to stay in. He's going back over on first base. The players are coming back. There's two or three of them staying out around the bags of the episode. Gehringer, on his other appearance at the plate in the first inning, was thrown out at first by Frankie Fritz. Score is tied 1-1. One ball, or rather, 1-1 is the count with a man on first base. Gehringer up. Cochran's going to stay in. Getting set to go. Watson coming back out at third base. Gehringer steps into the batter's box. Baker back over at third. The coach at the third baseline for the Tigers. Perkins at first. And we're all set to go. Paul Dean is on the mound, getting a signal from Delancey. Getting set for the delivery. Here's the pitch. And it's strike one call on Gehringer. One strike is the count on Charlie Gehringer. This is the last after third. Cochran's taking the lead off first. Here's the next pitch. Strike two, another one called on Gehringer. Two strikes is the count on Charlie Gehringer. Mickey Cochran on first base. Paul Dean's on the mound. Gets his signal from Delancey. It's all set for the delivery. Here's the pitch. And a foul over near the Tiger dugout. New ball across this. This is the last after third inning. Score tied 1-1. Paul Dean takes his position on the mound. Getting a signal from Delancey for the next pitch. Two strikes to the count. Up goes his arms. He's all set. Here it is. Ball outside and high. Two strikes and one ball. That one came very near being a wild pitch. Paul Dean goes to the rosin bag. He's back on the mound again. Two strikes and one ball is the count. All set. Here it is. And it's a drive going out to deep right. Rock is after it. 100. And he takes care of it for the third out, retiring the side. Gehringer out on a fly out to Rock in right field. The results of the last half of the third inning show one run, one hit, and one error, which was charged up to Frankie Fritz. Now the score as we go into the first half of the fourth is tied up 1-1.
And that's the end of the third inning of this World Series baseball game between the Cardinals and the Tigers, being played here at Navin Field, Detroit. This broadcast comes to you with the compliments of the Ford Motor Company and the Ford Dealers of America. And back to the ball game with France Law.
The first half of the fourth inning coming up. White is getting a big hand as he goes out to his position in center field. Rowe is on the mound, warming up with Hayworth until Mickey Cochran gets on his catching paraphernalia and gets out to the plate. The first man to face Rowe here in the first half of the fourth inning will be Medley. Cochran is getting a big hand now as he comes out to the plate. Medley, first man up for the Cardinals in the first half of the fourth, with the score tied 1-1. Right-handed hitter. Medley has one hit so far in the game, 1 out of 1, getting a single in the first inning. Rowe takes his position on the mound. Getting a signal from Mickey Conklin. Starts the old windup for the first pitch to Medwick. All one. He started to swing, changed his mind. The pitch was low. 1 ball is the count on Medwick. Rip Collins on deck. Rowe starts the old windup for the next one. Here's the pitch. Strike. He swung at it. 1-1. 1 ball and 1 strike on Medwick. 1 ball and 1 strike. Score tied up 1-1. The first half of the fourth. Goes on the mound again. He starts the old windup for the next pitch. Here it comes. Then it's a ground ball back over his head, going out to center field for a hit. And Medwick is on first base. Medwick gets a single to center. That's his second hit. 2 straight hits for Medwick, and that brings up Rip Collins, the Cardinal first baseman. Switch hitter, batting left-handed. Collins was out on a fly, out to Fox in right field in the first inning. Delancey on deck. Goes on the mound, getting set for the first pitch to Collins. Batting left-handed. Here it comes. Strike 1 called. 1 strike of the count on Rip Collins. This is the first half of the fourth. Ball game is tied up 1-1. 1 strike. Goes back on the mound again. Set for the next one. Here's the pitch. Ball inside and high. 1-1. 1 ball and 1 strike on Rip Collins. Joe Medwick on first base. Nobody out. Goes on the mound again. Set for the next pitch. Here it is. On the ground ball. Down to Gallagher. Getting the close to O'Gell. At second base. Forcing Medwick. Medwick forced out at second base. Gallagher to Rogel. Collins on first base. Result of the fielder's choice. And Delancey is up. Delancey is up. Cardinal catcher. He was out on the fly, out to Garland on his first trip to the plate in the second inning. Orsatti on deck. This is the first half of the fourth inning. Score tied 1-1. Collins on first base, 1 man down. Rowe takes his position on the mound again, gets his signal from Thompson for the first pitch to Delancey. Here it is. Ball outside. 1 ball is the count on Delancey. 1 ball is the count on Delancey. Goes back on the mound again. Gets the signal for the next one. Here's the pitch. Fire. Up on top of the stands to the left of the plate. And the count is 1-1. 1 ball and 1 strike on Delancey. 1-1 is the count. One ball and 1 strike. Rowe takes his position on the mound. Gets his signal from Conklin. Here it comes. And a foul. Back against the screen. The count is 2 strikes and 1 ball. 2 strikes and 1 ball is the count on Delancey with 1 man down and Rip Collins down on first base. Goes on the mound. Gets the old signal for the next pitch. Strike 3. Delancey went down swinging for the second out. That's the first man for Rowe to strike out. 2 down. Collins on first. That brings up Orsatti, the Cardinal center fielder, a left-handed hitter. Orsatti was thrown out by Owen on his other appearance at the plate in the second inning. Durocher on deck. Goes on the mound, getting set. Here's the pitch. Ball 1. Wide. 1 ball is the count on Orsatti. This is the first half of the fourth. The old ball game is tied up 1-1. Goes back on the mound, getting a signal for the next pitch. There's a throw to first base. Collins is back to the bag. Greenberg is tossing the ball back into Rowe. Coming in on the mound. Getting set for the next pitch to Orsatti. 1 ball is the count. Here it comes. And it's a fly ball. Out to left field. Gosling is at it. And he takes care of it. On his third out. Retiring the side. Orsatti is out on a fly to Gosling and left. The result, the first half of the fourth inning shows no run. 1 hit. And no error. And the score reads 1-1. Going into the last half of the fourth inning. And Goose Gosling, the Tiger left fielder, is scheduled to be the first hitter, with Rogel on deck and Greenberg in the hole. Cardinals are out on the field. Paul Dean is just strolling out to the mound. Delancey is waiting for him there to take preliminary throws. Infield is tossing the ball around. Goslin is over picking out a war club. He's throwing out to the plate. Goslin, Rogel, and Greenberg will be the first three hitters. Goslin on his other appearance to the plate in the first inning was thrown out at first by Pepper Martin. Hit a hard ground ball down the third baseline. Martin knocked it down and threw him out at first. There goes Delancey's throw down to first at second, and we're all set to go in the last half of the fourth inning. The ball game tied up 1-1. Umpire Clem is dusting off the plate. Sedgwick has just tied the record of 9 singles in a series when he got that last single. That tied the record. Dean gets his signal. He's winding up to the pitch. Here it is. And it's a ground ball down the straight. And he's out at first. Breaks to Collins for the initial out. Johnson grounded out on the first pitch. And that brings up Rogel, the Tiger shortstop. Switch hitter, batting left-handed against Dean. His second appearance is played. He struck out in the second inning. Followed by Greenberg. One down. Nobody on the last half of the fourth. Dean on the mound. Starts the old wind-up for the first pitch. Here it comes. Right one. Call on Rogel. One strike on Rogel with one down, nobody on. The last half of the fourth inning. Dean gets his signal. He's winding up. And it's a foul ball. Going over to the right of the plate. Delancey is after it. And he makes the catch for the second out. Rogel fouled out to Delancey. Down, that brings up Hank Greenberg, the Tiger first baseman, a right-handed hitter. Greenberg struck out on his other appearance to play for the second inning. He'll be followed by Owen. Umpire Clem is looking the ball over. On the mound. Dodgers wind up for the first pitch to Greenberg. Ball one, wide. One ball is the count on Greenberg. This is the last half of the fourth. So it's tied up 1-1. He's on the mound again. Gets the old signal for the next one. Winding up. And here it comes. And it's a fly ball. Going down the left field line. It's going foul. Martin is after it. And DeRocher makes the catch. Martin has catched the ball. And DeRocher came in back of him and made the catch down the left field line. 43rd out, retiring the drive. That one was rather funny there, the way that worked out. The result, the last half of the fourth inning show no runs, no hits, and no errors, and the score reads 1-1 going into the first half of the fifth inning. This broadcast is sponsored by the makers of Ford and Lincoln cars and Ford trucks. First half of the fifth inning coming up. St. Louis is back, and DeRocher will be the first man with Dean on deck and Martin the third hitter. Rowe is out on the mound. Cochran just strolling out to the plate. Takes the preliminary throws while the Tiger infield tosses the ball around. Both pitchers are pitching great balls so far in this game. Rowe has allowed 4 hits, and Dean has allowed 2. Dean has walked one man, where Rowe hasn't walked any. Leo DeRocher is the first man up for St. Louis the first half of the fifth inning. Second time at the plate in this game. He's thrown out by Owen in the second inning. Rowe is on the mound, getting his signal. Starts the old wind-up for the first pitch to DeRocher. Here it comes, and it's a ground ball down to Geringer, knocks the ball down, and there goes the play, but it's too late to get him, and it looks like it'll be recorded as a hit for DeRocher. It's a hit for DeRocher, and he's on first base. DeRocher gets a hit off of Geringer's glove back to second. He's on first base. Geringer came very near making a beautiful stop on that one. He went over there plenty far to get a hold of that ball, rather than knock it down. Dean coming up to the plate. His second appearance, he grounded out to Greenberg unassisted in the third inning. Right-handed hitter with DeRocher on first base, Martin on deck. On the mound getting set for the first pitch to Dean, and he bunts one down the first base line. Greenberg picks up the ball and runs back to the bag, making the put-out unassisted. Baldine came very near pulling a fast one there. Greenberg was sliding down to the bag, slowing up, paying interception. Baldine picks up speed, and he does like a fraction of beating Greenberg to the bag. DeRocher is on second. One down, and Temple Martin is up. One down, Temple Martin batting. This is Martin's third appearance to play. He hasn't any hits so far in this game. Popped out to Owen in the first inning, which made the catch back to the pitcher's mound. And in the third inning, he was thrown out at first by Charlie Gallagher. DeRocher down on second base, one man down. Martin batting with Rock on deck. And this is the first half of the fifth, with the score tied 1-1. Rose on the mound, getting set for the first pitch to Martin. Here it comes. Strike one call. One strike on Temple Martin. First half of the fifth inning. DeRocher down on second base. Rowe takes his position on the mound again, getting set for the next pitch. Here it comes. Harris at the hip. Out to right field, a ground single. Here comes DeRocher. Osmond is coming into the throw. Here it comes. And he's in with the run of the ball. Gets by Cochran. Going back to the screen. And Martin comes all the way around to third. Somebody will get an error on that one. It'll allow Martin to advance from second to third on it. DeRocher scored on Martin's single out to left. And then Martin, when the next bat throw at the plate, comes all the way around. It's an error. Probably on Goslin's throw from the outfield. Goslin gets the error on the throw. At the run-in, Martin on third base, one down, and Rock batting. So, winding up, here's the pitch to Rock. Strike one, he swung at it. The infield is in close, clear in on the grass in case he hadn't hit a ground ball, if they have a chance to cut Martin off at the plate. There's the next pitch to Rock. Ground ball down to Rogel. Rogel feels the ball. He's out at first. As Martin scores. Rock was out at first. Rogel to Greenberg. As Martin falls to the plate with a run. Two down. And Frankie Frisch is up. And the score is now 3-1 in favor of St. Louis the first half of the fifth inning. Frankie Frisch is the next hitter for the Cardinals. Umpire Clem dusting off the plate. There's two down, nobody off. Medwick on deck. Medwick, as we told you, has the record tied on singles for the series. And he's got a chance to break that his next time up. He has 9 singles in this series. Here's the first pitch to Frisch. Foul ball. Cochran is going after it. Over to the left of the plate. And he takes care of it. 43rd out, retiring the side. Frisch fouled out to Cochran. The result for the first half of the fifth inning shows 2 runs, 2 hits, and 1 error, which was charged up to Goslin on that throw to the plate. And now we have time for station identification. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
This is the WBBMS here at Wrigley Building, Chicago.
At Maven Field in Detroit, going into the last half of the fifth inning with the Tigers at bat. And Marvin Owen, the Tigers' third baseman, will be the first man up with Pete Fox on deck and Schoolboy Rowe in the hole. Aldine is on the mound, warming up with Delancey. Marvin Owen standing right for the plate there, waiting for him to make his throw down, and the umpire to call play ball in the start. There goes the throw down to Frisch at second. Owen steps into the batter's box. The umpire is dusting off the plate. And we're all set to go in the last half of the fifth inning. Owen's second appearance at the plate. In the second inning, he was thrown out at first by Temple Martin. Baldine starts his windup for the first pitch to Owen. Right, he swung at it, and how? He had all the intentions in the world of lifting that one right out in the bleachers. 1 strike is the count on Owen. Baldine on the mound again, getting a signal from Delancey. Winding up to the next pitch. Here it comes, and it's a fly ball going out to center field. Orsatti is after it, and he takes care of it for the first out. Owen out on a fly out to Orsatti in center. One away, that brings up Pete Fox, the Tiger right fielder. Boxes up. That's his second appearance. He popped out to DeRozier. Back to the pitcher's mound in the third inning. Rowe on deck. The last half of the fifth. Aldine's on the mound. He's winding up to the pitch. Here it comes. Ball one inside. 1 ball is the count on Fox. 1 ball is the count. The last half of the fifth inning. Dean winding up. Here's the next one. Foul back against the screen. 1-1. 1 ball and 1 strike on Fox with 1 down, nobody on. Aldine's on the mound again. Starts the old windup to the next pitch. Here it comes. Ball 2, outside and low. 2 balls and 1 strike. 2 balls and 1 strike is the count on Fox. He starts his windup. Here's the pitch. And it's a fly ball. Going out to center field. Orsatti is after it. And he takes care of it 42nd out. Fox flies out to Orsatti in center. 2 straight put out for Orsatti. And that brings up Schoolboy Rowe. Rowe coming up to the plate. His second appearance. He struck out in the third inning. The right-handed hitter. Score is now 3-1 in favor of St. Louis. Aldine's on the mound. He's winding up to the pitch. Strike 1 called. 1 strike is the count on Rowe. Aldine on the mound again. Winding up to the next one. And it's a drive out to center field. And Orsatti makes a beautiful running cut coming over to left center. On his third out, retiring the side. Boy, we'd expect that one hard. It looks like a nice double going out there. There's a peculiar inning. Orsatti in center field gets all 3 putouts. That ties the record in the series. And going into this score, the result there shows no runs, no hits, no errors. And going into the first half of the sixth, the score reached St. Louis 3, Detroit 1.
The nationwide broadcast of the World Series games are brought to you by the Ford Motor Company.
First half of the sixth inning coming up, and Joe Medwick will be the first man up for St. Louis, the right-handed hitter. He has 2 hits out of 2 trips, and with this appearance at the plate, if he gets a single, he will break the record on the most number of singles in a series. He'll be followed by Rip Collins, and then Delancey, the St. Louis catcher. There's Paxton slow down to Gehringer at second base. Gehringer tosses to Rogel, Rogel into Rowe, and we're all set to go. Medwick is just rolling up to the plate. He steps into the batter's box. The right-handed hitter, he has 2 hits out of 2 trips, singles in the first and fourth innings. Rowe is on the mound, getting a signal from Mickey Conklin, winding up to the pitch. Here's the first one. Strike 1 called. He started to swing, changed his mind, and it was a called strike. 1 strike on Medwick. Rowe starts his wind up to the next pitch. Here it comes. High, ball 1. 1 ball and 1 strike on Medwick. 1 ball and 1 strike is the count. Rowe is winding up to the next one. Here's the pitch. Strike 2. Medwick swung at it. 2 strikes and 1 ball. 2 strikes and 1 ball is the count on Medwick. Rowe starts the old wind-up. Ball 2, outside and high. 2 balls and 2 strikes on Medwick. First man up for the Cardinals the first half of the sixth inning. Rowe is back on the mound again. Gets his signal from Conklin. He's winding up. Here it comes. And he went down swinging. Medwick struck out for the first out. That's the second man for Rowe to whip. That brings up Rip Collins, the St. Louis first baseman. Collins hasn't any hits so far in the game. Starting left-handed. Rowe is winding up for the pitch. There it is. And he swung at it. Strike 1 on Collins. 1 strike is the count on Rip Collins. Rowe starts the old wind up to the next pitch. There it is. Strike 2 called. 2 strikes. 2 strikes is the count on Rip Collins with 1 down, nobody off. And he's winding up again. Here it comes. On a 5. Ball 1. 2 strikes and 1 ball. 2 strikes and 1 ball is the count on Rip Collins. Delancey on deck. Those starters wind up. Here's the next pitch. Ball 2. The pitch was inside and low, and the count is even up on Rip Collins, 2-2. Rowe has the ball. He's back out there, standing back of the mound. Now he comes in on the rubber. Garcia will wind up for the pitch. The count is 2-2. Here it is. And he went down swinging. Collins struck out. 42nd out. 2 straight strikeouts. And that brings up Delancey, the Cardinal catcher, a left-handed hitter. Delancey is up. Delancey is a left-handed hitter. There's 2 down. Delancey struck out his last place, the 4th inning. Rowe is winding up. Here's the first pitch to Delancey. And it's a fly ball going out to left field. Goslin is after it, 100. And he makes the catch. He came very near dropping it. It bounced up in his glove, but he managed to hang on. And retired the side with no runs, no hits, and no errors. And the scores that go into the last half of the 6th inning read 3-1 in favor of St. Louis. The last half of the 6th coming up, and JoJo White will be the first hitter for Detroit, followed by Mickey Cochran, and then Charlie Garrington. We have time for station identification. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
This is the WBBMR Theater, Wrigley Building, Chicago.
Back at Navin Field, going into the last half of the 6th inning. White, Cochran, and Gehringer will be the first 3 hitters for the Tigers in the last half of the 6th. There goes the throw down to second base. We're all set to go. White has been at the plate twice. He struck out in the 1st inning, walked in the 3rd, then went down to 2nd. And when Frisch dropped the ball down there, he moved on around the 3rd, after which he scored on Mickey Cochran's infield hit to Collins. Aldine is getting a signal from Delancey, winding up to the first pitch to White. Ball 1, wide. 1 ball is a count. 1 ball is a count on JoJo White, a left-handed hitter. Aldine starts the old wind-up for the next one. Ball 2, outside. Seems like all of these pitchers have a tough time pitching to White. He gets more walks than any of them. He's already had 8 walks in the 3rd. 7 walks in the 3rd. The Black Swan is tying the record. Dean is winding up. Here's the pitch. Strike, call. 2 balls and 1 strike. 2 balls and 1 strike is the count. This is the first man for the Tigers in the last half of the 6th. Dean's winding up. Here's the next one. All 3 inside. 3-1. Like he's got a mighty good chance to tie that record. 3-1 is the count. He's got to get 2 of them in there. Winding up. All 4 going wide. White walk. And if we're not mistaken, that ties the record of 8 walks in a series game. Cochran is the next man at the plate for the Tigers. Cochran has the only hit for the Tigers so far in this ball game. Singles in the 1st and 3rd innings. The left-handed hitter. Aldine's on the mound, getting set for the first pitch to Cochran. And it's a ground ball down the first base line. Collins knocks the ball down. This is a hit. He knocks the ball down. And White pulls around to 3rd. That's the 3rd hit for Mickey Cochran. For the ball and knocks it down, but doesn't have a chance to get anyone. White moving around the 3rd. Runners on 1st and 3rd, nobody out. And Charlie Gehringer is up. Charlie Gehringer is up, the Tigers' second baseman. A left-handed hitter. Dean's on the mound getting set. Here's the pitch. Strike 1 call on Gehringer. One strike is the count on Charlie Geringer. Goslin on deck. This is the last half of the sixth, with the score leading 3-1 in favor of St. Louis at the present time. Dean's on the mound. Here's the pitch. Maddox is down ball. Back to Dean. He's going to take the cleaning break. And everybody is safe. Geringer hit a little roller back to Paul Dean. He let it go between his legs. And White scored. Cochran going to second. Geringer on third. It's an error for Paul Dean. Score is now 3-2 St. Louis. Nobody out as yet. And Goslin is up. Goslin is up. Left-handed hitter. One run in. Cochran on second. Geringer on third base. And nobody down. Paul Dean on the mound, getting set for the first pitch. And he punts one out in front of the plate. And he threw to third base, forcing the man at third. Delancey, too much. Cochran was forced out at third. Delancey, too much. Geringer on second base. Goslin on first base. One down. And the Cardinals are in a little conference now. Rogel is up. One man down. Geringer on second. Goslin on first base. Paul Dean's on the mound, getting set. The score is 3-2 St. Louis. It's the last half of the sixth. Set for the pitch for Rogel. Foul. Back up against the press box. One strike and a new ball is tossed in. One strike is the count on Rogel. Greenberg on deck. Runners on first and second. And the next one is a fly ball. Going out to center field. Orsani going back. And he makes the cut for the second out. Geringer advancing to third after the cut. Geringer on third. Goslin on first. Two down. And Greenberg is up. Greenberg is up. The Tiger first baseman, a right-handed hitter. And the score is St. Louis 3, Detroit 2. This is the last half of the sixth inning. Greenberg batting, a right-handed hitter. Geringer on third. Goslin on first. Paul Dean on the mound. Here's the pitch. And it's a hit. Out to left field. Scoring Geringer. Greenberg single to left on the first pitch. Scoring Geringer with the tying run. Goslin stopping at second. And that brings up on. The score is now tied up 3-3. This is the last half of the sixth. On the mound, getting set for the first pitch to Warren. Runners on first and second. Oh, it was high. Goslin on second base. Greenberg on first base. Dean's error was very costly. His own error was very costly to him this inning. Here's the next pitch. Right call, 1-1. One ball and one strike. Paul Dean on the mound. Swing at it. Strike two. Two strikes and one ball is the count. On Owen. Goslin on second. Greenberg on first. And two men down. And this is the last half of the sixth. The ball game is now tied up 3-3. Paul Dean on the mound again, getting set for the next pitch. And it's a ground ball. Going down to DeRocha. And he's down to first. DeRocha to Collins. On his third out, retiring the side. Owen was out, DeRocha to Collins, retiring the side. The result, the last half of the sixth inning shows 2 runs. 2 hits and 1 in. And score now going into the first half of the second inning is tied 3-3.
Ford Motor Company hopes that the crowd that are listening in at the show just throughout the United States and Canada, as well as everywhere else, are enjoying this game. And back to the ball game at Maven Field itself with Frank Clark calling play-by-play.
In the first half of the seventh inning, Orsatti, the Cardinal center fielder, is scheduled to be the first hitter, followed by DeRocher and then Paul D. The hits are 6 for St. Louis, 4 for Detroit, and the Tigers have made 1 error. The Cardinals have made 2. Rowe is on the mound, warming up with Cochran. There goes the throw down to second. To Ganga. We're all set to go. Orsatti batting this. He's third appearance at the plate. He hasn't had any hits so far. First half of the seventh inning, Ernie Orsatti batting. Rowe starts his wind up to the pitch. Here it comes. And he attempts to bunt one, but he missed the ball completely. 1 strike on Orsatti. 1 strike is the count on Ernie Orsatti. First man up for St. Louis in the first half of the seventh. Goes on the mound, he's winding up. Here's the next pitch. And it's a fly ball. Going down the left field line. Gosselin is after it. And he makes the catch for the first out. Orsatti is out on a fly to Gosselin in left. 1 away. That brings up DeRocher, the Cardinal shortstop. DeRocher has 1 hit out of 2 trips. Batting, Rose on the mound, he got the signal from Cochran, winding up, here it comes, ball, it was high. 1 ball is the count on DeRocher. 1 man down, Rose starts the old wind up for the next one, and it's a try going out to right center, going hit, going clear on by right, clear out to the right field, center field fence, and DeRocher pulls up at second base with a double. It's a double for DeRocher, he's on second base. And Paul Dean is up. Paul Dean is up. Cardinal pitcher. DeRocher on second, 1 down. Whiten on deck. This is the first half of the seventh inning. Umpire Clem dusting the plate off. Now we're all set to go. Goes on the mound, getting set for the first pitch to Paul Dean. Here it comes. And it's a hit out to right field. Paul Dean singles to right. Here comes the throw coming in. And DeRocher is in with a run. Paul Dean singles to right on the first pitch, scoring DeRocher. And that makes the score read 4-3 in favor of St. Louis, the first half of the seventh inning. Paul Dean is on first base with 1 man down, and Pepper Martin is up. Martin batting, right-handed hitter. Martin stepping into the batter's box. There's 1 man down. Paul Dean is on first base. Rowe is taking his position on the mound, getting his signal from Cochran. For the first pitch to Martin. It's all set. Here it is. And it's a fly ball going out to short right. And White is after it. And he takes care of it for the second out. Martin is out on a fly out to, or rather to Fox in right. 42nd out. 2 down. That brings up Rob Rock, the Cardinal right fielder. Rob Rock has 2 hits out of 3 trips. Getting a double in the first inning, a single in the third. It was thrown out by Rogel in the 5th. Paul Dean on first base. Rob Rock batting. Starting left-handed against Rowe. Rowe's getting set for the pitch. Here it comes. Ball outside and low. 1 ball is the count on Rob Rock. 1 ball is the count. Rowe's on the mound again. Set for the next one. Here's the pitch. And it's a ground ball. Down to Owen. Owen has it. And he's out at first. Owen to Greenberg. For the third out. Retiring the side. The result for the first half of the seventh inning show 1 run, 2 hits, and no error. And St. Louis is again in the lead by a score of 4-3 going into the last half of the seventh inning. We have time for station identification. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
This is the WBBM Theater, Wrigley Building, Chicago.
Seventh inning. And Fox, the Tiger right fielder, is the first man up the last half of the seventh. Followed by Rowe and then JoJo White. The score at the present time is St. Louis 4, Detroit 3. The last half of the seventh inning. And Fox, the Tiger right fielder, is the first man up the last half of the seventh. Followed by Rowe and then JoJo White. The score at the present time is St. Louis 4, Detroit 3. Fox batting a right-handed hitter. Dean is on the mound, getting a signal from Delancey. Winding up to the pitch. Here it comes. And it's a fly ball. Going out to George left. And it goes as a hit. And a double. And Fox is on second base. He gets a Texas League double out to short left center. Orsani, DeRocher, and Medwick all after it, but none of them could quite get to it. And Fox is on second. And that brings up Schoolboy Rowe, the Tiger pitcher. Rowe is up. That's the tying run for the Tigers down on second base. White on deck. He'll drop his sacrifice, get him over to third. Scoring position, here's the pitch, and it's strike one call. One strike is the count on Rowe. One strike. Dean's on the mound again, set. Here's the next one. And he bunts one. And he is out at first, a sacrifice. Out Delancey to first, who covered the bag, advancing Fox to third. One down. One down. Fox on third base, and JoJo White, the Tiger center fielder, is up. He struck out in the first inning, walked in the third, walked in the sixth, but he scored both times after getting it on. The left-handed hitter. Enfield is playing in close for chance to touch. Fox off at the plate. It's a ground ball is hit, and it's a ground ball to DeRocher, and he is out at the plate. He hit a ground ball to DeRocher, and he was out at the plate. DeRocher is to Delancey. Two down. White is on first base. That was a ground ball to DeRocher at short. And Fox was out at the plate. DeRocher to Delancey. White is on first base, two down. And that brings up Nicky Cochran, the Tiger manager and catcher. And Cochran has 3 hits. Out of the Tigers' 6 hits, he has 3 up. 5 hits rather for the Tigers. He has 3 up. Dean on the mound, getting set for the first pitch to Cochran, a left-handed hitter. Here it is. Strike one called. White is on first base. 1 strike is the count on Cochran. And 2 men down. Dean's on the mound again, getting set for the next one. Gets his signal from Delancey. Ball. White. 1-1 is the count on Cochran. 1 ball and 1 strike. 1 ball and 1 strike. This is the last half of the seventh inning. Dean on the mound getting set. JoJo White taking a big lead. Here's the pitch. And he strikes down. There's the throw. And he is out at second base. He's out at second. He's set off of the bag and trying to come back. He was out. Delancey to first for the third out. Retiring the third. The result of the last half of the 7th inning show. No runs. 1 hit. And no errors. On the score, going into the first half of the 8th, leads St. Louis 4, Detroit 3. These World Series broadcasts are brought to you through the courtesy of the Ford Motor Company. Frankie Trick will be the first man up for St. Louis in the first half of the 8th inning, followed by Medley and then Collins. The hits in the game are 8 for St. Louis, 5 for Detroit. Salzman made 1 error on a bad throw to the plate for the Tigers. Trick and Paul Dean making errors for the St. Louis team. Let's take the preliminary throws with Hayworth. Hayworth coming out to the plate, Mickey Cochran just going out. There's a throw down to second base. Hayworth making the throw. We're all set to go. First half of the 8th inning, Big batting. This is first his 4th appearance at the plate this afternoon. He hasn't had a hit. Quick hitter, batting left-handed against Rowe. Score is 4-3. Favor the Cardinals. This is the first half of the 8th. Rowe is on the mound. Starts his wind up to the first pitch to Trick. And it's a foul down the first baseline. Foul by about 6 inches right down the first baseline. And it's strike 1 on Trick. New ball is tossed out to Schoolboy Rowe. 1 strike is the count on Trick. Medley's on deck. This is the first half of the 8th inning. Trick gets back into the batter's box. Rowe starts his wind up. Here's the pitch. And it's a ground ball. Coming down to short. Rogel takes it on a big hop. And he is out at first. Rogel to Greenberg. 1 down. Greenberg making a nice pickup out of the dirt. On the way, that brings up Medley, the Cardinal left fielder, a right-handed hitter. With Collins on deck. Rowe starts his wind-up for the first pitch to Medley. Fowler. He was ducking. That's when it hit his back. 2 balls are sent. 1 strike is the count on Medley. Rowe starts the old wind up to the next one. Here's the pitch. And a foul ball going down the first baseline. Greenberg is going after it, but not a chance to get to that one. Just a little bit out of his reach. They count as 2 strikes on Medley. The new ball tossed in. 2 strikes to the count. Medley went over to exchange back. 2 strikes. 1 man down, nobody on. And this is the first half of the 8th inning. Back to the batter's box. Rowe is on the mound. Getting his signal from Cochran. Winding up to the pitch. 2 strikes to the count. Here it comes. Ball outside and low. 1 ball and 2 strikes. 1 ball and 2 strikes. But the old wind-up to the next pitch. Here it is. And a foul to the right of the plate, going up on top of the stand. And the count is still 2 strikes and 1 ball on Medley. Another new one tossed out to Rowe, standing back of the mound, rubbing the cloth off of the ball. Comes in on the mound to get his signal. Winding up. Here's the pitch. And another foul. Back against the screen. Still 2 strikes and 1 ball. This is the first half of the 8th inning, and St. Louis leading 5 score 4-3. So it's coming in on the rubber again. Gets his signal, winding up to the pitch. Starts to... There it is. And it's a ground ball down to Greenberg. Greenberg comes up with it, and he is out at first. Greenberg unassisted. That's 2 down. 2 down, and Rip Collins, the Cardinal first baseman, is up. Left-handed hitter. That is batting left-handed against Rowe. 2 away. This is the first half of the 8th inning. Getting a signal from Cochran, winding up to the first pitch to Collins. Ball, it was high. 1 ball is the count on Rip Collins. Rowe is on the mound again. Up for the next one. Here's the pitch. And a foul. Up on top of the stand to the left of the plate. 1 strike and 1 ball is the count on Collins. strikes. With 2 down, nobody on the last, or rather the first half of the 8th inning. And here's the next pitch to Collins. Strike 2, he swung at it. 2 strikes is the count. 2 strikes and 1 ball. Rowe starts his windup again for the next pitch. Out of power, into the stands to the left of the plate. Count remains the same, 2 strikes and 1 ball. Another new one in. This is the first half of the 8th inning. St. Louis leading by a score of 4-3. Rowe standing back at the mound. He comes in on the rubber again to get his signal from Cochran. 2 strikes and 1 ball is the count. He's winding up. Here's the pitch, and it's a fly ball. Going down back to third base. Marvin Owen going back after it, and he makes the catch out in short left. Back to third. For the third out, retiring the side. The result, the first half of the 8th inning show no runs, no hits, and no errors. And the score reads St. Louis 4, Detroit 3, going into the last half of the 8th. And Mickey Cochran is scheduled to be the first hitter for the Tigers. Gehringer on deck, and Garza in the hole. Got their 3 big guns up this inning. Cochran has had 3 hits out of 3 trips. He was batting there in the 7th when White was thrown out attempting to steal second. The last half of the 8th inning, Mickey Cochran will be the first hitter. Dean is on the mound, warming up with Delancey. Cochran is strolling out to the plate. There goes Delancey's throw down to first at second base. Teams are fighting hard for this game. The Cardinals win, it means they're tied up with the Tigers, and they fight the deciding game tomorrow. The Tigers win, it's all over with, and they will be the new world champions. Mickey Cochran at the plate, left-handed hitter. Dean's on the mound, getting a signal from Delancey. Starts the old wind-up for the first pitch. Strike 1 called on Cochran. 1 strike is the count. Cochran has been at the plate 3 times, and he has 3 hits. Singles in the first, third, and 6. Dean starts his wind-up for the next one. And it's a ground ball going down to Frigg. Frigg comes up with it. He's out at first. Frigg to Collins for the initial out. Cochran grounded out. Frigg to Collins. 1 away, and that brings up Charlie Gehringer, the Tigers' second baseman. Gehringer scored a run in the 6th inning. He had a little easier roller back to Paul Dean. Paul Dean let it go between his legs, and it resulted in a couple runs before the inning was over. The left-handed hitter. Dean starts his wind-up for the pitch. Here's the first one, and it's a ground ball going down toward right. Chris goes after it, and he's safe. Safe at first. Beat it out. One infield hit. Chris went back on the grass, made a quick throw, but Gehringer beat it by a fraction. Gehringer on first base, 1 down, and Goslin is up. Goslin is up. Tiger left fielder, left-handed hitter. Dean on the mound getting set. There's a pitch. Strike. He swung at it. 1 strike is the count on Goslin. Gehringer on first base. 1 down. This is the last half of the 8th inning. Dean on the mound again, getting a signal from Delancey. For the next one, the score is 4-3 St. Louis. This is the last half of the 8th. Dean's on the mound set. There he turns and makes the throw over to first base. Back into Dean. He's on the mound again. Another throw to first. Gehringer was back 20 to third. On the mound, getting set for the pitch. Here it comes. And it's a drive out to right field. For a hit. And Gehringer pulls up at third. Goslin singles to right center, sending Gehringer to third. And that brings up Rogel. Brings up Rogel. Tiger shortstop. Time is called for the moment. Cardinals in a little conference with Dean. Rogel up. Good hitter, batting left-handed against Paul D. Rogel batting, Geringer on third, Goslin on first. That was Goslin's third hit of the afternoon. Paul Dean on the mound. The infield's in close. Here's the pitch. Ball one. Wide. One ball is the count. One ball is the count on Rogel. Infield is in close in case he hits the ground ball. Chance to cut off a run at the plate. Dean's on the mound again, getting a signal from Delancey. Ball two. It was wide. 2 balls and no strikes. 2 balls and no strikes is the count on Rogel. Aldine back on the mound again, getting a signal from Delancey for the next one. All set for the delivery. Here it is, and it's a fly ball. Going out to center field. Orsatti coming in after it. Ganger holding up. Here he comes. And he started in, but he went back when Orsatti makes a perfect throw to the plate. He really made a beauty on that one. That's 2 down. 2 down, and Hank Greenberg is up. The tag at first baseman. Greenberg will be the hitter. There's another conference out on the pitcher's mound. Martin, Frick, Delancey, and Paul D. And we wouldn't be a bit surprised there to see Greenberg purposely pass. Greenberg's a right-handed hitter. He has 1 hit out of 3 trips, getting a single in the 6th inning. Calls in the run. 2 down. Geringer on third base. Goslin on first base. This is the last half of the 8th. And St. Louis leading by a score of 4-3. Aldine's on the mound, getting set for the first pitch to Greenberg, a right-handed hitter. All set. There it is. Strike 1 called. 1 strike. And the pitch to him. 1 strike is the count on Greenberg. Aldine getting a signal from Delancey again. Here's the next one. And it's a foul ball. Going down the first baseline. Collins is after it. But it's... And he makes a beautiful catch going over to the boxes. He made a nice catch over there on that one. Bought his third out, retiring the side. The result, the last half of the 8th inning show no runs, 2 hits, and no errors. And the score going into the first half of the 9th inning reached St. Louis 4, Detroit 3.
The Ford Motor Company will be sending you these World Series broadcasts. Hopes that you are enjoying the game.
And now we're going to turn the microphone over to Pat Flanagan, who will carry on here in the 9th inning. Okay, Pat.
Okay, Brent. How about you, ladies and gentlemen? The first man coming to bat for the St. Louis Cardinals will be Delancey, who has been at bat 3 times this afternoon, has struck out once and flied out twice to Goslin. He has fouled and trained by Orsatti, who has gone out once to the infield from third base to first, has flied out once to left and flied out to center. Following Orsatti, we have DeRocher, who has gone out from third to first, singled once, doubled once, and scored both times that he got hit. At the present time, the hits are even. Dean and Rowe each having given 7 hits. 8 for Dean, I believe it is. 2, 4, 6, 7. 2, 4, 6, 7. Rowe has given 8 hits. Dean has given 7. Off Rowe's 54 runs have scored. Off Dean's 53 runs have scored. The man at the bat right now is Delancey. First ball tipped to Delancey. He swings at it for strike 1. 1 strike to Delancey, the catcher, was hitting left-handed. Delancey was a switch batter during the year, but since the season got near the end, he began to hit left-handed entirely. Next ball is a slow one coming down and nipping the outside corner at the hip for strike 2. 2 strikes to Delancey. Rowe takes his next time from Hawkins. Ready for the ball to pitch. Delancey swings at that one for strike 3. 3 pitch balls and he's down, which makes the 4th strikeout for Rowe this afternoon. Next man coming to bat is Orsatti, the center fielder. We have told you what he has done at bat today. Right now, it's one man down, nobody on, or Scotty at bat. First to the ninth, and 43 in favor of St. Louis Cardinals. First ball 50, when he fouls it back to the left of the plate, up into the upper deck. And it's strike one. One strike to Ernie O'Scotty. Rowe takes a new ball, rubs it up thoroughly. Steps out of the line and gets his time to pitch down to O'Scotty. Ernie's down there waiting for it. Here's the pitch. The ball goes back in the bounder, back towards second base, passes behind second base, and goes for a single. O'Scotty singles to center field. That's making hit number 9 off the pitching of Rowe. Man on first base, Joe Osher coming to bat. O'Scotty singles to center. With one down. There's a man on base. Joe Osher coming to bat. Right-hand hitter. Waiting for Rowe to pitch the first one, which comes in a little bit wide for the ball. Catcher makes a straight throw toward first base, but O'Scotty comes back and will throw his name. Osher watching for another one to come in here. Rowe stretches, looks toward first, while O'Scotty's taking the lead. Here's the pitch. There goes the ball down toward right field. Looks like it's going foul. It does. A hard foul line drive. And O'Scotty limps all the way around to third. And that bad ankle he's had since the first game. O'Scotty went to third, but he's on his way back across the infield now, going over to first base. So Osher got a line drive foul way down the right field foul line. Fielders again taking their places. Shortstop has just come in to say a few words to Rowe. Now he's starting back to his position. He's playing over deep toward the second base. Ready for the pitch to DeRocher. Runner on first, one down. Here's the pitch. With the right back toward second base. It goes for a hit. O'Scotty comes over to second base. He starts for third. The throw is coming down to third base. He comes into the bag and twists his leg badly as he goes into it. But swings around and gets up as the ball is missed on the throw. The ball came in, and just as he got there, now he's down on his hands and knees with his head on his hands. Just there he twisted that leg quite badly as he went in. DeRocher, on a throw down to third base, went out over to second. We have a man on second, a man on third. One man down. DeRocher is given credit for a single. He goes down to second base on the throw to third. The man is safe on the throw to third. The ball coming in, striking against Owen's arm, and bouncing off over the foul line. So we have a man on second, a man on third. Paul Dean coming to bat with one man down. The score, 4-3 in favor of the St. Louis Cardinals in the first half of the night. Paul Dean has laid down a sacrifice, singled once this afternoon, gone out once to the infield. First baseman on the fifth. He swings at the first ball pitch to him. Infield playing in close for a play at the plate with one down and two on. Runners on second and third taking their lead. Paul Dean's waiting for Rowe to pitch. He hits one down toward the second baseman. The throw is made at the plate, and the runner is called out at the plate as he comes dashing in. We have O'Scotty out at the plate on a throw from second baseman Ganger down to catcher Cochran. On the plate, DeRocher moves over to third. Paul Dean is safe on first base on the fielder's choice. That makes two men down and brings the head of the batting list, Mr. Martin, up to bat. Pepper Martin, who has had one single this afternoon, flied out to right, has also gone out to the third baseman on a fly, and has gone out from second to first. St. Louis has a man in scoring position over on third base. Two down, a man on first base, and Martin coming to bat. Martin coming up to bat. Rowe gets his sign to pitch to Pepper Martin. Just as he got the sign, we find catcher Cochran stepping back and commences to talk to umpire Clint. Cochran hurt himself at first base this afternoon, and he was jarred pretty heavily that time when O'Scotty threw his body against him as he came in. Lost the chance, of course, in doing that, hitting the plate and making the man drop the ball at the same time, but Mickey's too good a catcher for that. Man on first, man on third, two down on Martin at that. Rowe gets ready to pitch. Swings high. Passes over his left shoulder towards first, where Dean is leading. Here's the pitch. Pepper Martin takes a fast strike, hooking the outside corner just above the knees. Strike one. One strike to the old Pepper Pot. Runner on third starts his lead. Here's the pitch. He started for that one, changed his mind and took it low. Ball one and strike one to Martin. Martin at bat with DeRocher on third, Paul Dean over on first, and two down in the first half of the ninth. Rowe swings, looks toward first. Here's the pitch to Pepper Martin. He fouls one high up into the stands, and it's ball one and strike two. The pitch is out ahead of him. The new baseball is shot in immediately. Cochran throwing the ball in. Rowe steps back, rubs the ball a little bit, turns his back to the hitter. Much the same manner that Daffy Dean does. When he's pitching, he's taking his time, pitching a cautious game. A one-run lead, doesn't mean an awful lot. He doesn't want it to get any bigger. Watches at bat. Man on first and third, 2 down. Watch for the pitch. Here it comes. Up the Martin swings at it from strike 3. You're out. 2 strikeouts for him this inning. Brings his strikeout record now up to 5. Martin striking out of the ninth. So in the first half of the ninth inning, for the St. Louis Cardinals, we have no runs, 2 hits, there were no errors, and there were 2 men left in the base. Coming to bat on the last out of the ninth, we're going to see if these Tigers, who are famous for their last inning rallies, can do it again. That's what the crowd up here is yelling for. It's the hometown crowd for the Tigers. This inning tells the tale. If 1 run comes in, it's a tie. If more than 1 run come in, it means that the Tigers have the World Series all to themselves. If no runs come in, it goes into a tie on games, and they have to play again tomorrow. The first man coming to bat should be Greenberg. He has struck out once, fouled out once to the shortstop, and has had 1 single, which drove in a run. Owen is the first man at bat. I beg your pardon. I have my thumb on Greenberg and calling him instead of Owen. Owen comes to bat. He's flied out once to center, gone out twice to the infield. Owen coming to bat. In the last of the ninth, Paul Dean ready to pitch that ball down to him. Takes the first and wide and high. Ball left. Ball run to Owen. Dean has his next time to the Lassie. The crowd starting to talk it up. Owen takes a smack at it, knocks a high foul over near first base. It looks like it might go into the crowd. It does. Into the second row of box seats in the upper tier. Making the call out, ball 1 and strike 1. Delancey throws the ball to Pepper Martin. Pepper throws the ball over to Dizzy Dean. So Paul Dean getting these Deans mixed up again. Ready to see what this next pitch will bring. Ball 1 and strike 1 to Owen. He takes a smack at it. The high one over towards first base. Collins is backing over in foul territory and takes the ball for the out. Owen out on a throw to Collins. That makes the first man out in the last half of the ninth and brings to bat Fox, the right fielder. Fox, the right fielder, is the boy coming to bat. First ball pitched down to Fox. He looks it over carefully and throws it ball 1. Ball 1 to Fox. 1 man down, nobody on. 4-3 in favor of the Cardinals. Last of the ninth. Fox started for that one, changed his mind and took it for the called strike. They hit from the outside corner, a fast-breaking third. Ball 1, strike 1. Fox stands in close to the inside line of the plate. With his left foot well in toward the home plate. Watches the next pitch. Dean winds it up. Next one, call for strike 2, looking the inside corner. Just above the hit. Ball 1 and strike 2, a fastball. 1 and 2 to Fox. Fox turns around and throws something to the umpire. The umpire kicks the dirt away from the inside corner of the plate. Fox is waiting for it with a 1 and 2 count. Paul Dean has his signs from the Lassie to wind up start. Here's the pitch. There goes the ball out toward left center. It's hit way back deep. Orsatti is after it, says he can take it, and he does. Fox out on a fly to Orsatti. Now we shall see who comes up to bat. It should be Schoolboy Rowe, but in a case like this, with a score of 4-3 in favor of the St. Louis Cardinals, 2 men down in the last of the ninth. Even though the Schoolboy has 6 nice balls, and is a great favorite here, we'll in all probability see a new man come up here to bat for the Schoolboy. We're trying to pick him as he can bat. The Schoolboy is coming up to bat in his own position. Apparently, he's walking out there at least. Schoolboy Rowe is standing up there swinging a couple of bats. In the meantime, the infield of the Cardinals have gone into a huddle up on the mound. The entire infield is in there. William Martin, DeRocha, Fish, Collins, Paul Dean, and Delancey. All in their batting. To start back toward their playing position. Paul Dean takes a little advice from some of the older heads. There are 2 men down in the last of the ninth. If Paul Dean can get past this next hitter, he will have a chance to throw this World Series into another try. Schoolboy Rowe steps into the batsman's box. Paul Dean is sitting upon and gets ready to serve the first one up. Here it comes. Right over the top of the catcher's head and hits against the backstop for a very wild throw. Long run. The catcher couldn't come close to it, and Rowe had to duck it. It was in close and high. The ball completely slipping out of the hands of Paul Dean. Ball out of the hitter.
Ball was laid down a sacrifice, struck out and flied out to center this afternoon. The next was a fast strike, called. Ball run and strike one to Schoolboy Rowe, who turns around and says something to umpire Clem. Umpire Clem holds up one finger on each hand. Rowe watching for another one. Dean winds it up, fires one down there. Rowe hits it towards center field, way back deep. Orsatti goes back and yanks the ball down for the out. On a nice running catch, deep in center field, way back deep. And we find the last half of the ninth inning for the Tigers. No runs, no hits, no errors, and no one left on bases. Which gives the Cardinals a total of 4 runs, 10 hits, 2 errors committed, and 6 men left on the bases, while the Tigers have 3 runs, 7 hits, 1 error, and 6 men left on the bases. That ends the ball game, and it throws it into a tie again. Each team having 3 games. We're going to have another ball game tomorrow from this same spot. Looks to me as if Ted Husing is ready to talk about what's been going on. I'll turn it over to Ted.
Thank you very much, Pat. The broadcast of this game has been sent to you by the Ford Motor Company, builders of Ford and Lincoln cars and Ford trucks. You are cordially invited to be their guests again tomorrow when the World Series battle is resumed here at Navin Field, Detroit. And in the meantime, watch the Fords go by. I'm going to turn the microphone back to Pat in just a second, because Pat has been keeping a summary of the game and its highlights. There's nothing much more to add from this side of the field, because Pat has all that information right at his fingertips and probably can look his score chart over to give you the highlight of the ninth inning. This, of course, is done for the late tuner inners who might have missed the game or who might just be able to get back to the radio listening post on time and on occasion. And here you are, Pat, for the summary.
Okay, Fred, I have it. Ladies and gentlemen, the most interesting thing about the game is the fact that there has been better fielding in this game than we have seen in any of the others, particularly in the outfield, of course, with the exception of that marvelous White catch yesterday by JoJo White. But I think the way the scoring was done might bring it back to you if you have not been able to listen to the entire game. In the first half of the first inning, Martin flied to Owen. Rothrock doubled to right. Frisch flying to Owen, who made a very nice catch. Rothrock was safe going back to second, although the throw was made over that point. Cedric came up and singled Rothrock in with the first run, and he went down to second himself on the throw to the plate, making the score 1-0 in favor of the Cardinals. The next scoring came in the last half of the third when Detroit came to bat. White walked and went down to second when Frisch dropped Delancey's throw as he attempted to steal. He got up and continued the third when nobody picked the ball up, and it was given as an error on the second baseman. Cochran singled to the infield, and White scored, tying the thing at 1-1. Then Gehringer flied to Rothrock. There was no more scoring until the first half of the fifth, when the Cards came to bat, and DeRocher singled to Gehringer. Get the ball off his glove, but he made a single, back at second. A nice stop by Mr. Gehringer, but nothing was done about it, no throw at first. Paul Dean sacrificed to Greenberg. Martin singled and scored DeRocher, and then he continued on to second on the throw to the plate, and went over to third on Goslin's error when he made a wide throw to the plate, making the score there 2-1 at that point. Rothrock went out from Rogel to Greenberg. Martin came in and scored in the infield out, putting the Cards ahead 3-1. And then Frisch, to end that half of the inning, fouled out to Cochran. The next scoring was in the last half of the sixth inning. At that time, the Tigers came to bat and White walked again. Cochran singled and White went to third on the first pitch. The tying runs were then on base. Gehringer was safe on Dean's error on a slow roller that he let roll between his feet. White came in and scored, and Gehringer went to first base, Cochran moving to second, making the score 3-2. Then Goslin popped a bunt to the catcher, who got Cochran at third base on a throw over from Delancey to Martin. Gehringer moved to second in the infield out. Goslin went to first and was safe on a fielder's choice. Rogel flied to Orsatti. Gehringer moved over to third after that deep fly into center. Greenberg came up and singled to left, scoring Gehringer and bringing the point up to 3-3 tie. Goslin went to second. Greenberg was on first. Owen went out from DeRocher over to Collins. In the sixth inning. In the seventh inning, the score that really meant the ball game for the St. Louis Cardinals was brought in this way. Orsatti came up and flied to Goslin. DeRocher smacked the double act toward right center. Then Paul Dean, the pitcher, actually won his own ball game by singling and scoring DeRocher, making the score 4-3, which is the final. Martin flied to Fox, and Rothrock went out from Owen to Greenberg. Those were all the scoring chances, ladies and gentlemen, during the game. The final score, 4 runs, 10 hits, 2 errors, and 6 left-hand bases for the St. Louis Cardinals. For the Tigers, 3 runs, 7 hits, 1 error, and 6 left-hand bases. We have Rowe giving 10 hits, 4 runs, striking out 5. His opponent, Paul Dean, gave 7 hits, 3 runs, struck out 4, and walked 2. I believe it's time to turn the microphone back to Ted Husing, who will give you some of the highlights of this game, and then we'll see you again tomorrow. Right?
Thank you very much, Pat. There's just one highlight that I want to give, and that is that records are going into the book. And when I say into the book, I mean Charlie White's Little Red Book, which is the official book that is used by all the press representatives for checking the best records in the major leagues. It's probably the only publication containing the authentic figures of every department of professional baseball, and it's the one that we're quoting every so now and then. In order to give you some idea how quickly those records come up, you'll remember that a new record was set today in center field by outfielder Rosati in the fifth when he retired the entire side, catching 3 of the flies that were popped out into that portion of the ball orchard. White tied the record for 6 games with 8 walks, a record previously held by Dave Ruth. Of course, as you know, Fish cracks 4 records almost every time he steps to bat. He's now been at bat 192 times in total series played. That is a total of 8 series, and the series isn't over yet. He's been at the World Series 8 series, but 49 games. And, of course, playing tomorrow, barring any accident, he will make his 50th game and be way out in front for a number of games played. He has 57 hits in total series, and 45 of them are singles. There are many other records that we could give you, but as they come up, we'll pass them on to Frank Locke or Pat Flanagan, whichever of the 2 men happen to be broadcasting. Tomorrow is the concluding day. It's 3-3, and another game at Navin Field, Detroit. Now, don't forget, weather permitting, the Ford Motor Company brings you another World Series game tomorrow at exactly 1:15 Eastern Standard Time. Your announcer, Ted Husing, having followed in the wake of Frank Locke and Pat Flanagan, bids you au revoir. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.